Today on Faces of Manchester, I sit down with Miketon from the Nightblinders, and then he plays the title track off their album, The Guiding Light. Hey, Miketon, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've known you as one name when we first met, and then you became Miketon, and you've been that ever since.
Yeah.
I don't know. You never seemed that thrilled about your original name I knew you as, so I don't know if you want to talk about that. But why are you Miketon?
I'm not. It's a combination of my first and last name. But it actually happened when me and my friends were playing basketball, and like you said, I had a nickname before. So when I was 17, I was in a motorcycle accident, and I broke my front teeth all in one general direction, sort of. And people used to call me Carnosaur. And then when I got them fixed, they decided they couldn't call me that anymore. And like I said, me and my friends were playing basketball one day, and one of my friends just yelled, "Hey, Miketon, give me the ball." And I was like, "Oh, I think he means me." And then it kind of went on. That gentleman is in a band that you play in, too. So.
Yeah, I kind of remembered it, but, like, it's one of those things that, like, it's been over a decade now, right?
Yeah,
and now
so
it's just, that's who you are, is Miketon. And it's kind of funny how nicknames happen like that. So your band is Miketon and the Nightblinders.
It's actually not Miketon and the Nightblinders anymore. It's just the Nightblinders.
So I saw that online, and then a whole stream of memes started popping up about this.
Yeah. People thought I was looking for suggestions on what to change my band to, I think. I don't really know how that got out of hand.
What was your favorite one of those?
Miketon and the Kite Flyers or Miketon and the Bike Riders.
Are you both those things?
I haven't flown a kite in a very long time, but I do ride a bicycle quite a bit.
Nice. So it's just the Nightblinders then now.
Yeah, I think Miketon's very hard for people to spell since it's not real.
I mean, it's not. It's spelled exactly how it sounds.
Yep. Nope. People find it very hard. So I would play live shows, and I'd be like, the website was miketon.net at the time, and people couldn't find it.
Wow. I always think it's pretty conceited to just have somebody's name when there's a whole band behind you anyways.
Well, here's the thing. I figure it this way, right? So I spend all my time writing songs and like composing and putting together arrangements. And for most bands that I was in, like I did the majority of the work. And then when we break up, I have to write all new songs, and I have to start from scratch again, because nobody knows who I am, then who the band is. So I put my name first, but this band has stuck together for a while now, and we've become more of a band where everybody contributes like 100%. So I figured drop the name.
So now you realize those guys aren't expendable. You can't just replace them. And
well, some of them have been replaced. So
yeah, with every band, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I'm going to be honest, like over the past couple of years, my nightlife and social life has diminished to almost zero.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a 2-year-old now.
Yeah.
And I really hadn't heard, I'd heard a little tiny bit of what you guys were doing. But this morning I was like, I better listen to his band before I pull him on my show and talk to him about it, because I really don't know much of anything. And I listened and I was like, what style is this?
Oh.
Like, how would I tell somebody what do they sound like? Other than if I don't have a way to play it nowadays, I guess we always have a way to play it in our hands.
Sure.
But how would you describe what it is you guys do?
I call it folk rock, but I don't know really what to call it at all. And even from the records you listen to, what we do currently is even a little bit different from that. Some people want to call it folk punk, but I think that's a specific genre of music. So I just call it folk rock. It's what it is. We do a little bit of everything, I guess.
So how did you come to that sound? What were
I don't know.
What were the influences? What was the idea when it started? Where did it all come together?
I wanted to start a string band because when we started, it was just me and upright bass. I played acoustic guitar. We had an upright bass player, and we had a fiddle player. It was just some guy I'd never met. Our bass player found him. And then I wrote songs because I used to be in a string band. It was a 3-piece, and I wanted to do something similar. And then we found a guy who really wanted to play drums, but we didn't need drums, I didn't think. So he started playing Suitcases.
Wow.
So he had like a bass drum that just hit a suitcase, and then he played a snare drum, and that was pretty much it. And we did that for a year.
So it was a bass pedal on a suitcase?
Yeah. And then when we traveled, he just put everything in the suitcase.
That's kind of genius, actually.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well for a while.
Saves van space, for
and then
sure.
you can play like smaller spaces, like because it's not super loud. But I wanted to do something folky, something country, sort of. And then as we played more and more, I realized that it doesn't lean towards the way I write songs. Like, I grew up playing in punk rock bands and like listening to stuff like that, and I think there's a large correlation between. People don't think this, but like old country music and punk rock music, I think there's a large
sure. I think if you don't understand that, you probably don't understand punk music.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I think some people don't think that.
So that was the rebellion of the time.
Yeah, 100%.
That was the counterculture for sure. Now everybody, because that generation got old, they're like that's old people stuff. But they in their day, that was, Johnny Cash was not somebody you were going to bring home to mom.
Yeah, 100%. Well, not only that, he could play 4 chords 1,000 different ways. Yeah. There's 1,000 Johnny Cash songs that are just played in these chords, and it's definitely
everyone wants to credit the Ramones for doing that.
Yeah.
But really,
yeah. I mean, Woody Guthrie played literally. He said if you played more than 3 chords, you were just showing off.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think
I've said that for years because I can't actually play my instruments, as you know.
I've gotten much better at it over the years, but for a long time I was the same way. But then we blank. One day, my guitar player couldn't, like, our banjo player eventually showed up, and then he didn't want to play banjo anymore. He wanted to play the electric guitar. And then he didn't show up to practice one day, and my drummer was like, what if I just played full drums? And my bass player was like, oh, I brought this electric bass. And then I was like, all right, what if I'll play with, like, a light distortion? And then our whole band kind of changed altogether.
So are you able to take some of that older music, though, and play it with the
We could play all
new,
of it, yeah.
New sound?
Yeah.
Well, that's good then.
Right after we changed sounds.
It doesn't really change the band.
Not at all.
It's just presentation, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Changes some of the rooms we can play now, but other than that.
So what recording are you supporting when you're out there playing right now? What's your latest?
It's called The Guiding Light, and it was our first like full band recording. We did it in Manchester at a place called Blackheart Sound, which used to be on Candia Road, but is now directly behind the Music Mill. It's actually part of the Music Mill, I think, now.
Who's the producer there?
His name's Eric Saunter.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't even know there was... When I was playing in bands, like, we always had to go, like, 2 hours to record. It seems like that's kind of cool to hear that's something local that's high quality. Where are you playing soon?
Our next show is in Fitchburg at a place called Strong Style in Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
That's a very Fitchburg name.
Yeah, for sure. It's really weird because I went to high school in Ayer, Massachusetts for the last 2 years, which is 2 towns over from Fitchburg, and that's the closest I've ever played to where I went to high school.
Yeah, I don't think I ever, in playing hundreds of shows myself, I don't think I ever played Fitchburg. It's always like...
I did once with Lenny Lashley, a very long... Like, there was some weird place that you could play shows there, and he played there with Lenny and the Piss Poor Boys.
Yeah. He will play anywhere, he's proven.
100%.
For sure. So... You grew up... I didn't realize you lived in Massachusetts at all.
Yeah.
I learned from the internet today that you grew up in Auburn. It's kind of ridiculous. We've known each other that long. I have no idea where you actually grew up.
Oh, why does it say that somewhere on the internet?
I think it was a Manchester Inklink interview you did or something like that.
Makes sense.
I think that was the site. I could be wrong. I might be crediting the wrong person, but they were kind of like doing more of the man behind the music type piece. It seemed like there.
I do remember this now.
But, how do you end what was... I didn't know you moved away, so it kind of took me away from my path of this question, but where you did grow up in Auburn most of your childhood?
I lived in Auburn until I was I was born in Massachusetts, and when I was 6 months old, we moved to Auburn. And then I lived there till I was 11 or 12.
And then
we moved to Manchester, and that's where I met Kyle. Me and Kyle lived, the drummer of your old band, and we lived across the street from each other on Wellington Hill.
Oh, wow.
And I lived there for 2 years, and then I moved to Derry, and then the year after that we moved to Londonderry, and then we were there for a couple of years. That's where I started high school.
Quite a lot of moving around, so you've seen this whole area of New Hampshire for sure.
Yeah.
what's going on with the Manchester music scene right now? What else is happening? I know you see a lot of it.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a lot. We have a very diverse scene at the moment. There's like Joe Sambo, who's out there doing reggae music, which you wouldn't think that reggae music is coming from Manchester. But he's like number 2 on the iTunes reggae chart at the moment. Yeah, he just released a record, and it's literally Bob Marley and then him.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's very awesome for him.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, he plays a lot of the local breweries and stuff.
So other than music, what do you like about Manchester and New Hampshire in general? Why do you like living here? You obviously came back as an adult for a reason.
Yeah, I like the city because it's a city, you know what I mean? You have the things that come with living in a city, you know. There's lots of restaurants and bars, and there's a nightlife of sorts, but it's not as crazy as like a large. Like I used to live in Tampa, Florida, and like that's a bit bigger, and there's a bit more. I don't know.
Florida. There's a lot of Florida there.
Here's the thing: is most people don't like Florida. I love Florida. I mean, like not all of Florida, but like where I lived.
Now Tampa's a nice area.
Yeah. Well, I lived in St. Petersburg after that, but that's the thing: is I like middle, like smaller size cities. I like my wife and I go to Boston for like comedy shows or music shows, and I couldn't see myself ever living there. It's just too busy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Well, when you're not playing music, what do you do during the day?
Well, I work a whole lot, but I work on old cars. Like my wife has a '63 Ford Falcon that I've been building for her. I also work on our house. Like I've been installing hardwood floors right now.
I feel like every time I drive by your place, there's some. It's probably I know it's not true, but there's some new old vehicle out there, or weird camper trailer, or like.
I own 3 old cars and 1 camper trailer, and old stuff just requires upkeep. So
yeah, that's for sure.
So there probably is something outside.
Yeah,
I did a motor swap on the sidewalk.
I'm not saying like it's trashed redneck yard or anything like that.
I feel like you weren't saying it was until right now.
There's just some sort of other thing like in the yard.
Yeah, I like to keep busy,
I actually had a real estate client recently. We were out looking at houses. He's from Massachusetts, and he says to me, I don't want to sound rude, but what is it with New Hampshire and people having all kinds of shit all over their lawns?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it doesn't sound rude, and you're right, and I don't know.
I feel like it's not New Hampshire. Like, my wife and I just spent the weekend in Vermont, and we were up in, like, Wethersfield. And as we were driving, there was a man who had a house, and then beside the house was, like, a camper, like an RV. And then there was a pallet, what I can only describe as a pallet home built around the RV.
Oh, there's
like out of pallets. I'm 15 feet tall. Like.
In Ware, there's a campground that it's you're technically not allowed to live there year round. Everyone's supposed to leave for 2 months, but like it's the same thing. They built all these structures out of whatever around all these campers. It's pretty incredible.
If you ever drive through like the Appalachian Mountains, like that's what's going on. Like roofs are made of whatever they can find.
This is not something I should brag about, but I sold a trailer out there to a guy. It was like $15,000, and it had 2 dead squirrels in it.
Yeah.
And we asked the sellers if they would remove the dead animals at least. They said, nope, we're never coming back to that place. So he bought a trailer with dead squirrels in it.
But you found that guy what he wanted. So
I found that guy what he wanted, and I found a buyer for that seller. So, I did my job.
Yeah, you really did.
For sure. Way off track. Which is supposed to happen, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess my only other question, actually, is who else should I have on the show?
Who else should you have on the show? Like musician-wise or just in general?
Anybody in Manchester. I know you meet a lot of people in Manchester. You're pretty ingrained in the Manchester community.
I wish I had thought of this ahead of time.
It's no fun, though.
Have you thought of like the guys from Boards and Brews?
You know what's fun? I'm actually going to do a show that supplements this kind of called Places of Manchester instead of Faces of Manchester. Yeah. It's going to be a video show. And they were the first people I reached out to on Facebook. I didn't have any other contact info for them. And I've just been busy and haven't gotten a chance to walk in there and actually ask. But I'd like to do them for that.
I know those guys,
for
so
sure.
I'll talk to them if you want.
Yeah, well, get the contact information. Yeah, for sure.
Because they did that article. Like, they did that
I actually
place in
posted that
Manchester?
all over my for people that don't know that the website put out what the top 5 worst places in Manchester. It was Rock Rimmon